inspiration now to write a song. So I took my snake, I'm running to the forest like I do every time.
Welcome back to our video series about Václav Havel and human rights. Today we're going to talk about the occupation of Czechoslovakia in 1968, the strengthening of the communist regime, and the growth of the dissident movement in the 1970s. If, like me, you're not sure what any of this is about, don't worry, because Molly here has stayed up all night long studying very hard, whilst I had a nice hot bath.
In the first episode, we spoke about Václav Havel witnessing communist injustice from his youth.
What happened after that?
Well, let's place ourselves back in 1968. The United States has sent the three-man Apollo crew into space. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones rule the world of music, and the modern James Bond, Daniel Craig, has just been born.
In Czechoslovakia, the communists have been in power now for 20 years. Since 1948, the country has been under the control of the Soviet Union, which dominates many countries in Central and Eastern Europe, including Hungary, East Germany, and Poland.
This whole area is called the Eastern Bloc, where people are not allowed to travel abroad, speak freely, or have free elections. However, the thaw gradually begins in the 1960s.
Global warming?
Slow down, Al Gore. It's more like political warming. This is the era of so-called socialism with a human face. Independent music groups are emerging, movies are freely made, and censors ease their grip.
Havel is allowed to travel to see the premiere of his play, Memorandum, in America, and is the rising star of Czech, European, and world theatre.
The whole country awakes. Freedom and hope can be felt in the air.
Just like spring!
Exactly. It's called the Prague Spring, actually. But the Russians don't like it at all. They don't want to lose their influence over the communist countries. So an army of 500,000 Russian soldiers starts to occupy Czechoslovakia.
What do you mean, starts to occupy?
Well, think of it like this. A heavily armed neighbor barges into your apartment without really saying anything,
right,
and just locks the door with you inside. And stays there for 21 years.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Asi lidé věděli, že to znamená neštěstí a konec na delší dobu. Že se stalo něco zlého, to musel každý cítit a vnímat.
So we are
falling into a trap. Exactly. Censorship is reinstated.
Seriously? But no one can be allowed to do that.
The arrests and persecution of the opponents of the regime begin.
To byly vlastně statisíce lidí, od ředitelů fabrik, manažerů a učitelů, profesorů, kteří byli vypuzeni ze svých míst.
Books that are already printed end up in shredders. Finished movies are locked in the vault. Independent musicians are silenced. Students are expelled from schools. And all this is covered by the seemingly neutral term normalization.
In protest against the suffocating normalization, a 20-year-old philosophy student, Jan Palach, sets himself on fire.
Václav Havel cannot just remain silent and just watch what's going on around him.
Čin Jana Palacha je krajním výrazem bolesti nás všech, výkřikem, který se jediný člověk odhodlal zvolat za nás všechny. Právě proto je to však zároveň promyšlený politický čin. Musíme ho přijmout tak a jedině tak, jak byl myšlen. Jako výzvu k aktivitě, ke skutečně důslednému boji za vše, co upřímně považujeme za správné. Jako apel, který nás varuje před lhostejností, skepsí, beznadějí.
Similar statements earn him the increased attention of the state police. They begin to tap his telephone and persecute him. He becomes one of the forbidden writers. His plays continue to be staged in Europe, but simply vanish from Czechoslovak theaters. That's when Václav Havel and his wife, Olga, moved to their country house in Hradeček.
They say he works for some time in a brewery there.
That's right, but even there, he can't escape from the STB.
It's a hard thing to escape from. I had to go to the doctor about that.
No, STB.
Oh, right. Yes, STB, of course. That's the one short for the secret police.
Right.
They have an immense network of informers who grass on their friends, neighbours and colleagues.
Grass? What's that?
Oh, that means so when you snitch on someone.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And they used that to find out if someone had done or said something against the state. The next day, those people would be rounded up and they'd be forced and threatened to cooperate.
He mentions that in his legendary play, Audience.
You're some kind of an intellectual. You're into these politics. You're a writer. Who the hell would know what the fuck it is they want to know if not you?
Oh, no.
Despite his isolation and persecution, Václav Havel realizes that the injustice against him is only a small part of the all-pervasive system of stagnation and oppression.
Restrictions and lack of freedom escalate. Those who refuse to toe the line annoy the powers that be. Intellectuals, minorities, or even independent artists especially have a hard time.
In 1975, Havel writes an open letter to Gustav Husak, and he cannot aim higher. Husak is the highest-ranking communist in Czechoslovakia, a man who, a few months later, becomes the president.
And in this letter, Havel just decently but clearly reminds Husak that his country is in a catastrophic condition and a state of deep moral decline.
Havel's warning about the continuing stagnation in the society is a voice crying in the wilderness. If the situation is to change, he must do something about it, and he can't do it alone.
It's always like this. You know, Matt, like the Three Musketeers, the Ninja Turtles.
The Power Rangers, NSYNC.
Getting a little off track, but
Right.
You get what I mean. My point is, the best way to fight oppression is as a team, with someone who, like you, can see the difference between the truth and the lie.
We are now in the mid-70s. Despite the censorship and oppression, independent culture continues to survive. It's both a symbol of free spirit and a protest against the official policy and restrictions on human rights.
The dissidents are behind it, a small group of opponents of the regime who refuse to obediently follow what the communists are doing here.
Já se do toho disidentství nějak nehrnu, ale jsem do něj vtahován. My jsme si politiku nevybrali, politika si vybrala nás.
Disidenti tehdy opisovali knihy. Opisovali je a šířili, protože v tehdejším Československu bylo zakázáno vydávat cokoliv mimo oficiální línii. A tomu se říkal samizdat.
Without a laptop or a smartphone, just with carbon paper copies and a manual typewriter, they make these tiny little books.
Well, Matt, they weren't that small. They were normal books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and one samizdat work is called the Expedition Edition, founded by Havel. He eventually publishes 300 homemade volumes.
The last straw in the violation of human rights is the brutal raid of the Plastic People of the Universe, the Czech rock band named after the song by the legendary psychedelic rocker Frank Zappa. This happens in 1976.
How could someone be arrested because of music and having long hair? And what did this prompt the dissidents, headed by Havel, to do? Find out in the third episode.
Dun dun dun!